How's everybody doing? Sorry, trying to be upbeat. I'm kind of tired and hot. But nobody wants to hear about that on the video, right? Like always, please do the like, share, subscribe thing. The likes help us out. Well, they all do, really. Sharing it and getting the word out there. All my subscribers out there, thank you guys very much. I appreciate every one of you. On to today's video. Skills that you need to learn now before SHTF. Okay. And I'm going to start with the basics and work up, or vice versa. I'm just going to throw a bunch of junk at you. And a lot of these you guys already know. Some of them you might not have considered. Number one, I believe everybody should have some wilderness survival skills. Okay? Wilderness survival skills, settler skills, Native American skills, whatever, however you want to phrase it. Everybody needs to be able to know how to do things, since there's not going to be any more Wally World and all that. A lot of the guys I've talked to, that's where they kind of started out, okay? So wilderness survival skills, you need to know how to start a fire without a lighter or a match, okay? You need to learn how to set primitive traps, although the modern traps work a lot better, and I highly recommend that all of you have the traps in your preps. But know how to set the primitive traps, just like you see up on old Survivor Man and all those. Learn how to do that stuff. How to treat water, okay, which if you're talking wilderness survival, that's pretty much boiling. My opinion, if you guys see those YouTubes where the guys are finding an empty pop bottle and they're creating a filter out of grass and charcoal and sand, I mean, y'all do you, like always. My opinion, I don't know if I'd trust that too much, okay? So you're going to have container to boil water in. So your wilderness survival skills, that also goes into hunting, tracking, knowing how to read a map, which way's north, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff, okay? If it's a situation where, yeah, our phones don't work, GPSs don't work, you need to know how to get to where you're going. And it's sad, but most people today, and I didn't realize it until just the last couple years, I thought everybody knew how to read a map. No. The younger generations literally have gotten so used to all the different GPS devices and everything else. You hand them a map and they just don't get it. You older generation, you guys might be thinking I'm messing with you or something. No, I thought everybody, you can hand somebody a map and they can figure out how to get different places. Not so. So to you guys out there, if you don't know how to read a map, not real difficult. Do some studying up, do some practice with it. You know, instead of using your GPS, try to get from point A to point B using a map like all of us old timers used to have to do. Okay, so with that, wilderness survival skills, navigation skills, firearms, absolutely. Not necessarily, I'm not telling all you guys to go out there and be gunsmiths. If you choose to be, more power to you. But shooting, okay? Know which end of the gun the bullet comes out, right? Get familiar with the weapons. Shoot the weapons. A lot of us had that BB gun when we were little, or that 22, that it got to the point where you shot it so much that it was almost like you didn't even have to aim anymore. It just came up and you shot and it went right where you wanted it to, right? For those of you that didn't have that and think I'm full of poo, go ahead and ask some of those other guys, you know. I remember I had just a little pump BB gun, and it was just fun to play with. But yeah, it literally got to where I could hit, I remember it was a top to a pole for like a badminton set, and it was just a little red plastic piece, and it was like an inch by an inch or something. But yeah, from 20 feet away, I could hit that thing every time. But yeah, using the weapon, you get used to it. You get used to the kick, everything. So go out there and shoot, and shoot some more. I know it's expensive, trust me. But please don't be one of these, well, I've got a gun and I got some ammo, and if I need to use it, I'll know how to do it. No, you need to get familiar with your weapons. Okay, so got that out of the way. Food preservation. That is a huge one that it's getting into the little bit more advanced, okay? But there are tons of books out there on food preservation, from fermenting to pickling, curing, smoking, okay? You guys are going to need to know this, okay? A lot of the vegetables out of the garden will keep for a while without refrigeration. I've got crap all over me. Anyway, yeah, potatoes, carrots, your root vegetables, your root crops, in a root cellar, tended to properly, they'll last a few months. That was one of the points. That's why potatoes were so valuable. You would harvest them and they would last you through the winter without having to worry about preserving them any other way. Cabbage, people would grow cabbage like crazy and ferment it, sauerkraut, okay? And it would keep. It doesn't have to be frozen or canned, okay, for the most part, to last you a few months. Now, if you're looking to last years, yeah, you're going to have to get into that stuff. Eggs from your chickens, okay? A lot of people don't know. Number one, get this out of the way, you do not need a rooster to have eggs. If you got half a dozen hens and no rooster, they're still going to lay eggs, okay? Same thing with ducks, okay? They're going to lay. But anyway, you go out and collect the eggs in the morning. A lot of the old country farmers, they would just leave them on the counter in the kitchen. They have a coating to them when mama pushes them out, and when you clean them, when you scrub them, you remove that coating. That's why when you buy eggs at the store, you have to keep them in the refrigerator, okay? But an egg that you keep, it's called the bloom, if I remember right. It's been a couple years since I had chickens. To keep the bloom on them, that coating, once again, if you've got a root cellar, okay, something where it doesn't get too cold but it doesn't get too hot, right? Those eggs will last for a long time like that. I've heard of people keeping them for 9 months. I don't know that I personally would try that, but little tip for you guys with eggs. If you are unsure if an egg is good or not, take you a bowl of water, cup of water, something, put the egg in it. If it sinks down to the bottom and it lays on its side, fresh egg, you're good to go. If it sinks on the bottom but it's tilting up, okay, you need to use it soon. If the egg floats, don't use it, throw it out. Don't even crack that sucker, okay? But even for those of you maybe don't have chickens with the store-bought, if you're ever concerned if the eggs are still good, if you forgot about them, if they were in the back of the fridge, you can use that little technique. Put them in some water. If they sink, you're good to go. Let me see what else. So we went roots. fruits, your apples, things like that, they'll keep in a root cellar. Now going on to your meats. Okay, I can a lot of meat, okay, just because, yeah, I know it's going to last a couple years. Now, I've never tested this because, frankly, it doesn't last that long, okay. I think I've told you guys my daughter is crazy about the canned chicken, using it to make chicken salad. She thought it was the nastiest stuff in the world until she tried it, and she's like, that's pretty darn good. But as far as the canning, yeah, it'll last you a year or two as long as you're taking care of it. Remember, root cellar, once again, in the basement somewhere. As far as the exact lengths, I'm not going to tell you. I don't want to get into trouble. Do your own research on how long canned meat is good for. With your canned products, and I don't care if you canned it yourself, Grandma canned it, Aunt Mabel, or you bought the can from the store. Okay. You guys have opened a jar of pickles, right? And when you first open that jar of pickles, what happens? You hear that pop, okay? On top of that lid, in the center, a new jar of pickles, it's going to be concave, okay? When you pop it, it releases that pressure, and now that lid is convex, okay? Same thing with your home canned stuff. If you grab a jar of whatever out of the pantry and you can push down on that top, that center, and it clicks, don't use it, okay? But if you push down on it and it's still concave and it's still good, you're good to go, okay? For your store-bought stuff, if you see that that can's swelling, no bueno, throw it away. What's going on is when you pressurize it, you're heating it up to a certain temperature that's called out for. It varies, check your books. But what happens to air when it gets hot? It expands. What happens to air when it gets cold? It contracts. So what happens is you can that, and it's sealed up, and as that jar, that canned whatever, cools, it sucks down that lid, okay? That's how you know you got a good seal. And you could pull that stuff out 5 years from now, and as long as that lid is still concave, you can't click it, you know, it's not convex, the food inside is not going to hurt you. Okay, now, yeah, you guys can probably tell something else was coming. The nutrients do start to break down after a certain amount of time, okay? If you're looking to fill your tum-tums though, yeah, it should be okay. What you have to worry about with home canned stuff is botulism, okay? That's why it has to be brought up to a certain temperature, or it needs to be very acidic to kill that botulism. Botulism, if you have botulism in that jar and you didn't can it long enough, initially, yeah, that lid's going to suck down, it's going to be concave, you're going to be like, we're good to go. But like with all bacteria and stuff, it starts to feed, it starts to expand, it puts off gas, and it pushes that lid up. So that's the whole deal with that little lid. If it's popped up, no. Same thing with your canned stuff from a grocery store. If something has gotten there, if they didn't seal it properly, if the seal didn't, for whatever, there's a little hole in it now, whatever. If that can is swollen, no, that's what's happened. Something's in there and it's producing, it's feeding, it's pushing out gas, it's going to do that. With your curing and your smoking, this is one of the biggest things that I wish people would study up on. You guys have heard me talk before. My opinion is that when something happens, you're going to have everybody out there with a gun shooting whatever they can eat. They're going to be starving, right? They are not going to know how to properly take care of it. A lot of it's going to go to waste. Well, once it's wasted, they have to eat again, so they got to do it again. People need to know how to preserve meat, okay? And this is not a video on how to do that. This is telling you to go out and learn it, okay? Curing, you're going to be needing salt, everything else. Today, we think of a ham as something in the freezer section. We bring it home. We do what we do, and then we eat it for Easter or whatever, Christmas. And I'm going to try to remember this, double check me on this. I believe those hams are like wet cured. They're soaked in a brine to allow everything to get in. And you do have to freeze them because it doesn't do exactly what you want. Now, I believe they're called country hams. Okay. And once again, correct me down if I'm saying this wrong, correct me in the comments. Cured with salt and other things, and I'll leave it at that. You guys can check it out. But these are just hung up, like they're packed in salt, you know, and there's some steps. But they're hung up once again like in a root cellar, typically in a some sort of bag or something like that that will allow airflow. But what it does is the outside of that ham actually gets, the moisture is drawn away from it. Without moisture, you can't have bad things come in, okay? But that's another type of curing, and I think that's the type that people are going to need. I have heard that guys take you a 5-gallon bucket, 2 cups of salt per gallon of water, with some vinegar, and keep the meat submerged, and it lasts however long. I don't even, it wasn't years or nothing like that, but it'll help you for a little while. Something like that might be very handy. Excuse me. You get a deer, you get antelope, whatever part of the country you're in. You get a larger animal that you can't eat all in one day, but it's going to take you a week to eat it. Now, things like that, your water brines, keeps it from rotting, and you're still able to use it. But anyway, check those things out, guys. Curing the meat, smoking the meat. Smoking's awesome. It's for those of you that have gone to Lowe's and bought a smoker, that's not smoking to preserve, that's smoking for flavor, which is awesome, don't get me wrong. But smoking to preserve is a cold smoke. Like, you really don't want the temperature around the meat to be like, I believe it's above 90 degrees, because you're not cooking it, okay? You're smoking it. The smokers we buy from Lowe's and Home Depot and all those places, we are cooking the meat. Like, yeah, we're smoking it, but we're cooking it to be eaten in just a little while, right? As far as for smoking for preservation, it's a cold smoke. So I don't want you guys to think that you can take your smoker from, yeah, big box store, wherever you bought it, and you're good to go. You can smoke all your meat now. Now, if you do slice it thin enough, like jerky style, those type of things will work. Okay, you're getting that moisture out of there. But even with a true jerky, there's not heat involved. Okay, it is just the removing of the moisture. It's like, yeah, I've made deer jerky. I've put it in my oven on the lowest settings and, you know, prop the door open, let the moisture out. But if you're talking about true jerky, no, there's no heat. You're not cooking it. You're just drying it out. With this jerky that can be made on a smoker or, you know, over a fire, if it's thin enough, if it cracks, you're good. Okay, there you go. But if it just bends, there's still too much moisture in it. If there is a little bit of moisture, okay, if you're cooking it, okay, it can still stay good for a few months, actually, okay? And please do your own research. Don't say, well, Big G said that it's, no, do your own research. But even that jerky, that will still stay good for a couple months. And if we're in a shtf without rule of law, Teotawaki, blah, 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 something like that, we probably don't have to worry about, well, I need it to keep for a couple years. No, couple weeks, couple months, and that's probably going to be about it. We're going to be eating it up. Yeah, do some research on that. I mean, I've had jerky. You can't seal it up in a Ziploc baggie, okay, because it doesn't let the moisture collects on the inside. But like a cloth bag or something like that, to where it does allow some air circulation, and it'll last for a while. So I'm sure there's a lot of other skills that I'm not bringing out, but my opinion, those are some of the ones that either everybody needs to learn, well, everybody needs to learn them all anyway, or some of the ones that just off the top of my head, yeah, learn about your weapons, how to use them, learn that wilderness survival. And I don't even care if you're in the middle of a city, okay? Yeah, dandelions grow in the middle of the city and they're edible, right? Learn those wild edibles, learn those wild medicinals. I don't care where you're at, you can find that stuff. Yeah, the curing, the food preservation, I believe the reason why I brought that up is because I believe that is going to be like the leading cause of death. It's not going to be, my opinion, not going to be gunshot wound. It's people starving to death or eating bad things that make them sick, so learn that food preservation. Yeah, I think it'll be all for now. We're getting about 20 some minutes out. I'll cut her loose, let y'all go. But until next time, this might be a part 1. I don't know. I might show you some stuff in here in a little bit. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But until next time, thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you after a while.